topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask Good Questions podcast, broadcasting live every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY Radio at W4CY.com. This week and every week, we will reach for a higher purpose in money and life, as well as a focus on health and wellness. Now, let's join your host, Benita Bell-Andersen, as together we start with Asking Good Questions.
Hey, hello, and welcome to the Ask Good Questions podcast. My name is Benita Bell-Andersen, and I am so excited today for the guest that we are going to be learning from. Her name is Antoinette Lee. I'm going to invite her to the proverbial podcast stage.
Hi, Benita.
Hello. So as a lot of you know, I'm in Hawaii doing a senior mission with my husband. And so, you can do podcasting wherever you are. And Antoinette she says, up in the North Woods, right?
I am. I'm in a forest in the North Woods in the ice belt of the Midwestern United States.
Have you gotten snow yet?
Oh, my goodness. We've had snow for 3 months now. And it's awesome.
All right. Well, yeah, the only snow that is here in Hawaii is at the very tippy top of one of the mountains, but nothing like that. Well, let me tell you a little bit about this girl. She's a superwoman, kind of in my eyes. She's an MBA. She's a former tech CEO. She's an 11-year U.S. Army veteran. She was an air assault qualified expert field medic trained in anatomy and physiology and pharmacology and infection control and disease prevention. But today she has a really interesting story that we're going to enjoy learning from. She is an outdoor industry influencer now. She's a model. She's a consultant. She's a freelance writer at several magazines. She's the founder of the American Adventure Sports Club nonprofit. Do you have any time to just go walk in the woods, Annette? I'm wondering.
Every day.
Every day. Good. You make time. And she's a motivational health and wellness speaker. She delivers a podcast of her own called The New Normal Big Life. And it's a talk, it's a blog, and it's a podcast. And she has a debut book that is called 4 Hours to Live, A Soldier's Journey of Adoption, Assault, and Advocacy. So aside from an amazing recovery journey from using a walker and a service dog, now is your service dog still around? Phoebe,
she
right?
Is. Right. Phoebe is now 15 years old and going strong, believe it or not.
Oh, awesome. Must be from all those walks.
And cross-country skiing.
Okay. So she was also at one time a full-time caregiver, as I have done a lot of caregiving in my day. But she had a traumatic brain injury. We're going to find out about that. A spine injury and PTSD. And she now shows others how to create their new normal and live the biggest life that they can dream. One of her passions is talking about how outdoor recreation is at the intersection of health and wellness and stewardship and adventure. I love that. She can usually be found in the North Woods with her family, stewarding the forest and river around their homestead while living the adventure sports lifestyle. She leaves listeners and anyone that she's talking to with action steps to create their new normal and inspiration to live a big life. So, how about that? Is there anything you'd like to add to that intro?
I think you've nailed it. And, hearing that my life back at me, it's like, wow, I've done a lot. But, I'm old. I just turned 58 in November, so I've had a lot of
Hey,
years to
you're not
accomplish a
old
lot of
yet,
things.
girl. Because I got you on that one. But yeah, no, the whole idea is to live every day to the fullest and to live the healthiest life and do those things that will help you create that healthy life, right?
Right? Longevity is everything. In 2026, longevity and wearable devices are kind of the buzzwords that everyone's talking about right
They
now.
are, aren't they? I got to tell you before I ask you this first question, I have been rappelling. And when I first was reading about this rappelling accident and we were talking about it, I was like, I remember getting all, just harnessed, and I'm feeling like this is completely safe. I was at a cliff in Zion National Park,
Mm.
and just going way down, but I felt completely safe because I'm looking at all the ropes and the harnesses and the everything pounded into the rocks. And so take us back to the rappelling accident. What changed instantly, and how did that happen?
Well, you talk about safety, and I felt completely safe, except the conditions that injured another soldier were the same conditions that injured me on my way down to give him aid.
Oh,
And so I didn't fall off the mountain, I slammed into the mountain. So when you're rappelling, as you have your feet out in an L-shaped
yeah.
position and you hit the mountain, your feet will bounce off the mountain, and you've got a person on belay down below who will tighten the rope if you start to
Right,
fall.
right.
Well, it just so happened that when I slipped, my belay person's attention, now I don't remember any of this. I only know what people told me. I have no memory until 2 weeks before the accident. So the day before the accident, most of the time that I was in the hospital, I don't remember any of that. So I only know from onlookers. And apparently my belay person was distracted. So there was just like a few second delay of when they tightened the rope. But when I slipped, I swung out like a pendulum. I swung into the mountain and hit my head, and then also swung back into the mountain again and hit my bottom, and then it broke my back. And so by the time that I was 32, I had arthritis from my neck to my tailbone, both knees, a shoulder that needed to be repaired, reconnected to my bicep, and then complications from the injuries.
Wow. So what changed slowly over time was it just sounds like there was a lot of cascading pieces that were becoming noticeable over time.
Right, so you have the initial injury and you think, "Oh, well, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not hurt so bad," in air quotes.
Yeah,
Thank God. I survived it. I'm not in a wheelchair. Well, I am technically in a wheelchair, but once I leave the hospital, I'll no longer be in the wheelchair. I'll just
right.
have a cane, probably for a short time, and I will recover and go back to work is what I thought. And I did have occupational therapy and physical therapy and all of the things to get me back to working and living my life. Maybe not at 100%, because at the time when I was injured, I came into the military a state championship runner. And while I was in the military, I was a competitive bodybuilder and power lifter for the Army. And
Wow.
so it took a long while before I could recover, but I was at a very advanced level of fitness when I got injured, and that is one thing that helped me. So having
Right.
all that muscle protected my back from a more serious injury.
Wow.
So over time, I went back to work. I think it took maybe 3 months or so, and then I continued living my life. But little by little, it was like boiling a frog slowly. You don't realize that, my memory is not as good. And sometimes I lose my words, and sometimes I'm struggling to focus. And some days, I need a lot of pain medication just to be able to go to work. And so it was all these little things just compounding. But what made it substantially worse was that allopathic or conventional medicine just was not working for me. And I was on 20 medications at one time and getting sicker and sicker by the day.
Yeah. So when you say you relied on a walker and a service dog and a full-time caregiver, is that when you got Phoebe? Was when this happened?
Yes. So I got Phoebe after, not at the initial injury. I got her maybe, oh gosh, to do the math, it was almost a decade later that I went into decline. But the reason I went into such severe decline, in my opinion, it was that, medications are chemicals. And they can be very, very beneficial, especially when you're first injured, because they work fast, they're very strong, and they usually do the job that we want them to do or that our doctors think they will do for us.
Yeah.
However, there are some people for whom their bodies are just wired differently, and we are very sensitive to our environment. We're very sensitive to the foods we eat, the ingredients we use in products like healthcare and cleaning products, and the ingredients in our food. Some people can eat junk and perform at a high level. I'm not one of those people. Some people can take medications and say better living through chemistry. Yeah. And nothing ever happens to them. But for me, it was causing organ damage. My kidneys were failing because of the medications. And I was on 5 medications at one time that all caused kidney potential of a side effect for kidney damage.
I got really crazy over this issue about medications with my mother when my mother was dying, and they'd give her a medication, but then they would give her something else to counteract the side effects, and then there'd be another side effect. And so I remember just being so frustrated over that whole thing. But you had said that you had excellent health insurance, but what gaps were there then if you're receiving all these things and, they have the best intentions, but what gaps did you experience in the system?
Well, the major gap was that because I have a background in healthcare, I knew to ask questions about medications.
Yeah.
Every medication has what they call side effects. It's not a side effect, it's a potential likely effect based on data, right? Other patients have had these effects.
Yeah.
I brought up to every care provider that gave me a medication that could potentially damage my kidneys, are you aware that I'm on 3 or 4 medications that also run the risk of kidney damage? And they would all say the same thing. You're on a very low dose of each medication. I don't think it will be a problem. And because I'm not the one with an MD, right? I have a MBA and a degree in economics and a degree in science, but I'm not an MD. So I relied on their judgment that if you say it's going to be fine, you're the one with the MD, I'm going to trust you. And until it wasn't fine, and I nearly died because of it. So not only that, but I became so allergic to so many medications that today, when I do need a medication, it's very difficult to find one that has not put me into anaphylactic shock in the past or given me a side effect that, in the grand scheme of side effects, when you look at the ones that are just maybe a little mild, like may cause drowsiness, or one that could potentially stop your heart or cause dangerously low blood sugar, I'm the person who gets the one that could stop your heart or dangerously low blood sugar.
Right.
It's just the way that I'm wired. So I'm not anti-medication, and I do occasionally take a medication for a short time, but very consistently when I take a medication, for me, it's a 50-50 chance that I'm going to have an allergic reaction, and there's a 50-50 chance I'm going to have a very dangerous side effect experience.
I think this is great motivation to be living the most healthy lifestyle that you can possibly live, right?
Amen.
Well, I know that there were several surgeries involved in all of this, and you've described hitting rock bottom after what, a 5th surgery? So
I was on my 4th surgery waiting. I had a 30-day wait before my 5th surgery. And during that period, I thought I wasn't going to make it to the next day, let alone to my next surgery.
Yeah. Well, what were the moments or the signals that made you think to yourself, I just can't keep doing this the same way? Because obviously with you being on this podcast and describing this whole story, there's a big aha moment coming, but I want people to understand what the context of where you are now is. And so was there a moment where you just said, I just can't keep doing it, I've got to do something different?
Well, before I got to that, something very important happened. I woke up one day just feeling like I was not going to make it until the next day. But instead of telling my caregiver, oh my goodness, I'm worried that something is very wrong, we need to run to the emergency room right now, I didn't have that sense. I really had this inner feeling that it's already too late to do anything about it.
Wow.
And so my caregiver noticed that I wasn't doing well, but it was, by the time they noticed, it was really late. And if you have any experience with emergency rooms, you don't really want to go in the middle of the night or on a weekend.
No.
And we could talk about that later, but
Never liked emergency rooms. No, they're terrible.
So we wanted to wait until the next morning, and I didn't communicate this, and I'm not sure why. Maybe I don't want to say that I was giving up hope that I would get better, but I think in that moment, my physical body felt so worn out. I really felt like my organs were shutting down. My respiration was very, very slow. I felt like the next time that I fall asleep, I wasn't going to wake up. And I was not panicked about it because I have a relationship with God. I know who I am. I know who I've been in this world. I know that I've been a good human being.
Yeah.
And I was just in gratitude. I didn't say, take me to the emergency room. I said, God, I don't want this to be my last day, but if it is, thank you for the life I've had. I've loved, I've been loved. I've had awards and accolades. I've accomplished many things in that 40 years of life, 70 years of life. And I looked at my dog, Phoebe, who would not leave my side, not for food, water, to go out, to play. She would not leave my side. And she looked at me like she was saying goodbye. And also in my eyes that day, or in that moment, I was looking down on my body. I was looking down on Phoebe, and it felt as if my soul had left my body, and it was just sort of waiting for whatever time to go. And so that's why I wasn't in a panic about getting to the emergency room. So I thank God for my life, and I said, but if you give me one more day, I'm going to figure out why I'm so sick, because I'm not the only one.
Right.
I meet people all the time in doctors' offices who are like me, complex medical problems that can't seem to find answers for. And I went to sleep the next day.
Yeah, you make me think that you were basically getting this whole idea that you needed to advocate differently for yourself, I think.
The next morning when I woke up, that was when I realized I need to be a different kind of advocate. I need to, what I did not do in the past was, when my gut feeling, when my own body was telling me that what these doctors were recommending were not a good idea based on experience, based on my experience with anaphylactic shock, most of the time when I take a new medication. Or if I've been on a medication even for 10 years, one day I'll take a dose and I go into anaphylactic shock. It's became apparent that long-term use of medication was not right for me personally. It may be right for some people, just not for me. I realized I needed to be the sort of advocate that trusted her own gut and intuition, but also researched for herself,
Right.
and then not allow doctors to gaslight you into shutting down when you're trying to have a discussion about your healthcare treatment plan.
So let's stop a minute. I don't know if everyone there, I mean, I remember when I first heard that term, I was like, what does that mean? And so when you define medical gaslighting, what are the most common ways that it shows up for patients that have some kind of chronic illness?
Well, when you report your symptoms to a doctor and they start diminishing your symptoms or attributing them to some sort of mental defect or telling you that what you're seeing and feeling is not valid, that's a good sign you're being gaslit. And here's some examples of how it might show up between you and your doctor when you're advocating for yourself or someone you love. And I'll tell you in the form of a story that happened to me. So I am a fit, muscular person. I have a bench press. Well, not now, but in the past, I've had a bench
Back in
press
the
of
day.
200 pounds, 350 pound squat, and a 500-pound deadlift. Today, I can pick up 100 pounds without a problem, even with my back injury and arthritis. You know, I live on a homestead. I carry 100 pounds all the time by myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I told my doctor I have a healthy diet, I live a healthy lifestyle, I'm fit and active, there's no reason I should have a 40-pound weight gain. And in my research, I found the autopsy of a woman who could be my double. Same age, ethnicity, even from the same ethnic group. And she had all of the symptoms that I'm currently experiencing, and she died of a massive heart attack, even though her brother, who
Wow.
was with her, is a paramedic and couldn't save her life.
Ah,
And she got to the ambulance within 8 minutes of the heart attack.
ah,
So
wow.
so I was concerned about these very serious information that I found, and my doctor asked me if I thought maybe I could be living in the wrong gender and that I should embrace my weight gain because of body positivity and shapes, and
Oh,
beauty comes in all shapes and sizes.
okay.
So this is my cardiologist, right? That was gaslighting.
Yeah. Wow.
And so he didn't run any tests. And here's the other piece about gaslighting. The doctor will make an assessment that it's just in your mind and you have a mood disorder or an identity problem or dysfunction without running any tests. So he didn't run any tests to check my heart. He didn't run any tests to check any of my blood work, my blood panels. He just said, I'm going to give you a consult to mental health because I think you have gender dysphoria and you're struggling with body positivity.
Oh my gosh. That would make me so angry. Whoa.
And so for the listeners out there, I am a very feminine woman. There is no way anyone could even just suspect that I don't know what my gender identity is, that I could
you don't know who you are.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so if someone listening suspects that they're being dismissed, which is what this is they're being dismissed, what are 3 practical scripts or questions? This is the Ask Good Questions podcast after all. So what are some good questions that they can use in the exam room?
Well, I'll tell you some that I use personally. And so one is bringing the conversation back to your original question. So what do you think about this unexplained weight gain, this 40-pound weight gain? And for example, that doctor who dismissed me caused me to get a delay in treatment for a very serious condition that's now under control. So I just want to impress upon you that if you allow a doctor or a healthcare worker to gaslight you without challenging them, it could cost you your life. It's a very serious thing.
Yeah.
So bringing the conversation back to your original question, and then ask them, have you treated other people with a complicated case like mine, or is this very unusual? What's your experience with what I'm going through? And the third one would be, I'd say, maybe ask the doctor what tests they would run and what information they would get from those tests that they plan to run. So my doctor didn't plan to ask me to run any tests. So I brought it back around to, so are we going to test, and what might you find in those tests?
And let's see what he would say. That would be like a big clue.
Right.
Wow.
So I interviewed a hospital administrator, Dr. Julie Seamers, in episode 25 of New Normal Big Life. And that episode is called Surviving Your Hospital Stay. And in it, Dr. Seamers and I talk about what you can do to advocate for yourself, because during the process of advocating for yourself, if you become agitated, if you raise your voice, then that gives patient advocate and security and the doctor the ammunition to say to you that you're just having a mood disorder problem and we need to give you a consult to mental health, versus taking your symptoms seriously. So you want to stay calm, and there is a hierarchy of escalation. So you can go to patient advocate, and then there's a next level and a next level and the next level when you're being gaslit or not getting the answers you need for yourself or your loved one.
Well, how would you respond to, I mean, I'm thinking that there's got to be a balance between respecting medical expertise while trusting your own experience with your own body, right? There's got to be a balance. And I think what you're saying is it has to do with how you feel in your gut about what's right for you.
Yes. Before human beings had the ability to speak, we communicated information, or I'm sorry, we received information externally using our senses, what we could hear, feel, smell, see, etc. And so once we started talking, human beings started relying on spoken word more than what we were feeling. So in your ancient brain that we think of as our intuition, and a lot of people feel it like butterflies in the stomach or hairs on the back of your neck. Those are the things before we had language that kept us alive. But we've gotten so far away from that because we rely on what we could hear, in spoken word on podcasts, or what someone might tell you or read when we're doing research online. But you need to go back to listening to what your body is telling you. And 100% of the time, since I started listening to my body and weighing that against what doctors were advising me and what I find in my research, I have been right 100% of the time. And so today, using AI, because I don't know everything, even though I do have a medical background, I don't know everything, right? So using AI, you can use tools like perplexity.com and type in your symptoms and ask, what is the normal allopathic treatment for this problem? What kinds of medications might they recommend? What types of surgery or therapies? What types of natural things could I try first, right? You could get all that information, go into your doctor's appointment, knowing almost as much as they do, because they use AI too. They don't know, they can't remember everything about everything they learned in medical school. And you're just a more informed healthcare consumer when you do that. And then you weigh their advice. I always say, I've heard what you said about which medication you think I should take. I'm going to go home and research that, and I will call your office tomorrow to tell you whether or not I want to take that medication. Or I've heard you say that you want me to have surgery. I'm going to research the risks versus benefits and call you back tomorrow and tell you whether or not I want that surgery. I can tell you from experience that most of your doctors will not like it. They want you to say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, and keep it moving. But if you say it calmly, professionally, and matter-of-factly, and then end the discussion there. So if they want to argue with you or any of that, you can simply just say, okay, I'm going to end my appointment and I'm going to go talk to patient advocate.
Yeah. Well, so I think that we've got a pretty good idea of where you've been. Let's start talking now about this healing framework of yours. Basically, the elements of natural medicine plus nature. So natural medicine first. So when you say natural medicine, what are you talking about? Are you talking about nutrition or lifestyle or stress or supplementation? What does it mean for you?
It means all of those things. So I'll give you a really easy way to understand this. Not just me, although when I first started this, I was operating just on intuition. I didn't read that this is what I should do. But today, a lot of doctors are telling you this in your office visit, that it used to be thought that 50% of what makes you who you are is genetic, right? And that still is true. But you can turn those genes off or on by lifestyle choices and environmental impacts. 10% of what makes you who you are, that's what happens to you and what's in your environment, what happens in society, all of those things. You're not in control of your genes. You are in control of gene expression, meaning you can make lifestyle choices that will turn those genes on or off, and you're not fully in control of your environment. You can make sure your house doesn't have mold, for example, but you can't control the pollution in the air or the forever chemicals in your water, right? But you can control that other remaining 40%, and those are lifestyle choices. But here's the new twist. Today, when I started in 2014, it was thought that you are 40% in control of your health and wellness through lifestyle choices. Newer research says you are 90 to 98% in control of your good health and longevity based on lifestyle choices.
Yeah.
So what I knew instinctively was that
huge.
I needed to go back to the way that human beings were before the industrial age. I needed to go back to the way that my parents lived before they moved to a city. So both my parents were raised on farms. They grew most of what they ate. They raised most of what they ate. They fished and hunted. They didn't eat a lot of processed foods, and they raised us to be that way too. As an adult, I didn't eat a lot of processed foods, but there are sneaky little toxic ingredients that even if you read labels, but you don't understand the words that you're reading, can sneak in. And that's why I did a whole episode on the toxic ingredients, and you can print it out and download those ingredients so you can take them to the store and make sure you avoid them in your food, water, health and beauty aids, and in your cleaning products. The other thing that I just knew instinctively was that after my brain injury and spinal injury became so debilitating that I had to use a walker and a full-time caregiver, I realized that I needed to go outside. My doctors told me, sleep as much as possible, rest, don't overexert yourself, stay out of the sun. All of these things were completely wrong, mind you, but these were what MDs told me. We now know that we need sunshine. We need to be around other human beings. We need socialization. We need to move our bodies. We need to eat unprocessed foods without toxic chemicals, and we need to drink half your body weight in ounces of water every day. And so that was the first thing that I decided that I was going to do. But I also had the benefit of having a medical journal. I had been writing down symptoms and how I felt when I ate certain things or drank certain things or took certain supplements. And I could go back to that and see that when I did these things, I felt well. When I did these things, I got sicker and sicker. So writing down your symptoms also gives you a way to talk about that with your doctor. And so I do have a step-by-step plan that I can tell listeners how they can get started creating their new normal to live a big life as well.
Well, for someone who's homebound, maybe low energy mobility, maybe they're limited mobility wise, they're probably resonating with a lot of things that you've said. But what are realistic nature doses that they could, even in that state, that they could do to get started with more nature, hits for themselves? What could they do to begin?
Well, Benita, this is a great question. So when I began, I had been in my home for 18 months. I had developed agoraphobia and I couldn't leave my home. All of my healthcare was done in home through telemedicine and through my care provider.
Wow.
And when I decided to create my new normal, I wrote out what my new normal was going to be, right? And then I set out to do it. And the very first thing I did was roll my walker into a whitewater kayaking class in a heated pool and learn how to kayak. And I spent 3 months learning how to kayak in the pool. And then I rolled my walker to the river's edge and got on the river. And for the first time in years, I felt, air quotes, normal. I didn't have my service dog. I didn't have a care provider. I was on the river kayaking like everybody else. And that was very freeing. And it also made me feel less anxious about all the things that made me fearful when I couldn't leave my home.
Yeah.
It restored my sense of I do have everything I need inside me to handle whatever situations may come up when I leave my house. I just paddled a river, for heaven's sake. I can do anything now. That's really how I felt. So for that person who's at home and you have an amputated arm or an amputated leg, know this. I recreate with adaptive sports athletes all the time. I've climbed mountains with a teenager who was born without arms. I have whitewater kayaked with a veteran who lost an arm in combat. I've kayaked with a veteran who lost a leg. So having a mobility, stability, or even a cognitive challenge doesn't limit you with what you can do. You can do all of the things through adaptive sports.
I was just, one of the things I'm doing here in Hawaii is I help with a nonprofit called Travel Visions Aloha. Travel Visions Aloha is dealing with the blind community. And I just got to help them experience dolphins in a lagoon with dolphins and getting in this. I was in charge of this little gal who's, so I'm standing beside her to make sure that she, is appropriate around the dolphin, but she's able to take her hands out and feel the belly of the dolphin, and the dolphin is making, and anyway, so yeah, it's amazing what can be done through sports. It really is. So
it really is, and it's life-changing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that, so I'm with you. The next thing I'm going to be doing in a couple of days, I'm going to be taking those same blind people. They're going to be going out in outrigger canoes out into the ocean.
That's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
I actually know the first man. Well, it was two blind kayakers, Lonnie and also Eric Weinmeier. And I'm friends with both. Well, I met Lonnie. I don't know him well, but I'm friends with Eric Weinmeier. I used to serve on his board at No Barriers. but he's the first blind person to summit Mount Everest and
Yeah.
one of two blind people to be the first to whitewater kayak the entire Grand Canyon. 277 miles of some of the most ferocious whitewater in North America.
So how did you shift identity? So, I mean, you're basically shifting from patient / survivor to adventure sportswoman.
Well, I had a little layover in tech.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A little layover in tech. Okay. I don't think we have time to get into that today. Maybe another day. But that was a transition. And I think first and foremost, it was an emotional transition, right?
Well, it really is, because any kind of loss of identity, from becoming an empty nester to having a significant health challenge or an injury, or changing jobs like I did, leaving the military, any kind of closed community like law enforcement or military, we have our own culture and our own language and very deep friendships. And so changing identities for anyone is difficult. Human beings don't like change. It's not something that we enjoy, but you really lose who you used to be. And that's why I like to tell people, mourn what you had. That's a very valid thing to do.
Okay.
And allow yourself to think about what's possible in the future. What will your new normal be? Because you're never getting that old life back. You can't bring your kids back home. Well, maybe you can if they want to, right? If you're an empty nester and you're really struggling with that, you can be like me and recover most of your good health, but I still do have flare-ups. Sometimes I do still have to use a cane from time to time. And I can't always do the things that I want to do, but I manage my healthcare needs completely differently. And creating a new identity is part of taking that new normal big life journey, first figuring out what will you be in your new normal? How will that look? How will you show up in the world? What kinds of people will you surround yourself with? What kinds of things will you do for school, work, or play? And that's where it starts. And from there, you take one step every day towards that new normal.
I was just listening to someone talk about asking questions instead of doing affirmations, and I thought what they said was so true, because they were saying, if you do affirmations, you're saying like, I'm going to lose 40 pounds. And I'm so glad that I've lost 40 pounds. And they're saying in your head is saying, no, you're still, you haven't lost 40 pounds, and said, it's like, what do I have to do? Just asking questions about what do I have to do to get there. So I need to start wrapping up. We could talk for a long time here, I feel like. If a listener, I want to do some practical takeaways before we end for today. If a listener feels stuck or overwhelmed, what would be your first 3 steps for the next 7 days to start getting some momentum towards feeling healthier?
Oh, this is a great question. So the first thing that you want to do is get out a pen or pencil and paper. Don't use a computer, because what you write down, goals that you write down, scientifically proven, those are the goals that you will achieve. So handwrite, but keep this private. Don't share this with anyone just yet. It's going to be down the road when it's safe to share it. And here's why. Your friends and family who know that you're struggling with whatever the issue is, whether it's relationships or work or health, they're going to probably try to talk you out of it because they want to keep you safe. They want to try and protect you. Right? So don't share it at first. They'll try to poo-poo your ideas, right? So write down what your new normal will look like and write it in the present tense. I am a fiction writer, if that's a goal for you. Write it down in the present tense and the next thing that you want to do is write a list of things that will get you to where you want to be. And so, for example,
that's like, how do I get there? The action steps.
The action steps. So one of my goals was to switch from being a tech CEO, because that job was too physically demanding and it was taxing on my health, my physical and mental health. So I needed to switch careers and I wanted to become a writer. So I took a course on how to become a ghostwriter. And that was in my new normal. I am a ghostwriter. I write about this. I write in this genre. And I went to the class. I created an online profile as a freelance ghostwriter and published it at 11 p.m. By 1 p.m. the next morning, I had my first ghostwriting book deal.
Oh, wow.
1 p.m. the next afternoon. So if there's nothing magical about it, but I did say to myself, because if you tell your body it's hot, I am so hot, I'm sweating, I'm profusely sweating. Why is it so hot in here? Even though it's freezing outdoors, your body starts to physically react. So that's why in mantras and in affirmations, you say it in the present that you currently already have the thing. Is because your body believes the messages you give it, and it will physically react that way. And so a lot of people get stuck and they want to make a change, but then they worry about, how will I afford it? Who will help me? How will I get the training I need, or the certifications, or whatever it is? How will I find the natural medicines? Once you get on that path towards this new normal, everything just becomes synchronistic and it lines up for you. Every opportunity I need just landed in my lap, almost as if I wrote it out and like a genie made it happen.
Well, it's almost like maybe how we end is basically saying, take 100% responsibility for yourself.
Absolutely. Because here's the thing. No one will save you and no one can save you. You have to save yourself.
Yeah.
And the reason is because, let's say you have a chef that cooks for you and a personal trainer that will lead you through all of the exercises, and your goal is to become fit and healthy. You're the one who has to eat the food, do the workout, take the supplements, all of the things. No one can do that for you. Everything is going to come down to what you invest in yourself.
So with that, let me just tell everyone that there will be a informational flyer about Antoinette Lee on the website that you can go access. And I'll make sure that she has, you mentioned a couple of things. So I'll make sure that we have information on how do people access those resources that you talked about. So our time is up. We have got to say goodbye for today. I think that we could talk about other aspects of this very easily at another time.
Thank you so much for having me, Benita.
I've loved having you here. It was just fascinating listening to your journey. Go outside now and take another walk and or maybe shovel some snow, depending on what it's doing out there right now. So with that, thank you so much, everyone, for joining the Ask Good Questions podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Today's episode is over, but we did ask good questions again, didn't we? Don't miss out as we broadcast live every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY Radio at W4CY.com. Join Benita Bell-Andersen next week for more conversations with experts on finances, retirement, behavioral finance issues, health and wellness, and more. Until then, remember to ask good questions.